Please take 3 minutes to introduce yourself and your political party and to describe why people of all ages should or shouldn't have affordable access to Vancouver's arts and culture spaces.
Hello everybody, my name is Massimo Rossetti. I think I'm the only person running for parks up here. I'm running with the Vancouver First. I've been volunteering for about 25 years. I started out at Thunderbird Community Centre where I became president. Went on to do a capital plan campaign there. I was asked to help out on a capital plan at Champlain Heights Community Centre, and I joined the board there and helped them with their capital plan. I was then asked to go to Hastings and help them with their capital plan, which because of economic global uncertainties didn't happen, or because of the way the capital plan set up. I've been president there for a year. I was evicted by the current Parks Board. Our community association was evicted. We wrote a lawsuit, or we filed a lawsuit against them. Wrote affidavits against that, and the judge stayed it, and we're currently going to court for that. Let's go on to the part about. I'm going to tell you guys a little story, maybe, since I have a little bit of time here. The reason why I got involved. Back about 20 years ago, I was working out in the gym. I know it doesn't look like it, but really, I did at one point in time. And I would see all these kids after school running into the youth center. And, excuse me, sorry. One day it was really weird. These kids would run in, and they'd usually be there for like hours on end. And one day they're all coming out with pieces of wood. And one had a hammer, one had a nail, one had a saw. And so I walk over and I ask the youth work, and I'm like, what's going on? And they're like, oh, well, these are at-risk kids. And I'm like, what do you mean at-risk kids? So I didn't understand what at-risk was. I grew up in that neighborhood. I didn't understand that some of us were at risk. And he went on to explain, well, some of them come from, broken homes, single parents that are under the poverty line, that live in, subsidized housing. And so I was really intrigued by this. And he went on to tell me that some of these kids have a problem in school and socializing. So I decided to volunteer and start helping out with these kids, and it started out pretty cool, where they started just using the tools and then building little models and racing each other. And eventually they wanted to do bigger soapbox derbies, and I'm looking at the time, so I'm going to try to wrap this up. So what the community association did is they went to local hardware stores and asked for money and asked for materials and tools and stuff, and it was donated to the association. And the association put on these soapbox derbies, and they got the police involved. They closed down the streets, and these kids did these soapbox derbies, and I think that's what sort of got me really involved in the community and advocating for the associations, because they could do things that the city just couldn't do, and that's why I'm here. Thank you.
Hi everybody, my name's Heather Deal. I'm a Vancouver City Councillor with Vision Vancouver running for re-election. And I'll tell you a little bit about myself and then a bit about our platform coming up for this next coming term. I am a biologist by training. I worked actually in cancer research for years with my master's in microbiology, and then eventually found my way back to my true love, which is environmental biology. I did watershed restoration for fish habitat around the province, and then very happily found myself for quite a few years at the David Suzuki Foundation. So that's my background professionally. I also sing. I was at the Vancouver Bach Choir for about 25 years, including being president of the board. I ride my bike a lot, I garden a lot, and I also go to a little thing in the desert called Burning Man. I went for my 12th time this year, and I've gotten involved in the project where we're trying to figure out how city policies can actually line up with the 10 principles, or if you want to include the 11th unofficial one, gratitude. So that's the little project I'm working on the side right now. So I'm also the Mayor's Lead on Arts and Culture, and one of our biggest challenges on arts and culture is affordability for up-and-coming creative people. So we've got a lot of things in our platform to talk about it. And one of the main things is that we need to be a city where you can live, work, and get around. So we have a rental policy that's extremely robust. We've already built 1,000 units of rental housing a year in the last 2 years, and we promise to continue to do so for the next 4 years. We're also focusing very heavily on transit. There's a regional transit plan that all of the mayors have gotten together and worked on and agreed on, which was not easy. And it includes a Broadway subway, which we know for all of you who take the 99B is a huge priority for us. We've taken a leadership role in that. We have the experience and the knowledge to bring that forward and continue to be leaders as it goes into the referendum in the spring. We also have been working very closely to make sure that we have a diverse and inclusive community. That involves a lot of work on the LGBTQ community with the school board in particular. We need to make sure that youth of all different orientations and self-descriptions feel safe and included in everything that they do. In terms of the arts, we have many, many things that we've been working on. You'll hear more about the performance spaces later on, but the Park Board, for instance, has opened up their field houses to resident artists. We have expanded studio space by over 20,000 square feet in the city. We're going to create a mural matchmaker where we take muralists, and I know quite a few of you might be some of you in the room, I don't know, and we match them with blank walls in neighborhoods that would really like to see their neighborhoods popped up and be more exciting. These are just some of the many things that we've done. I'm just looking, we're going to create a new independent arts fund. That's something new in the city. It's going to be a $50,000 a year fund, which can go out to new projects, new ideas, and some of these emerging ideas that can't necessarily get into the regular grant program because they don't have a record of success. We're also going to start creating pop-up opportunities for art studio spaces in empty storefronts. So these are just some of the ideas that we have for the upcoming term. We'll hear more from you. Love to hear from you tonight on what your priorities are. But while we move forward with a safe, clean, green city that doesn't have Kinder Morgan in it, that does have more art spaces in it, that has great transit in it, I look forward to working with you, and I hope that you vote Vision November the 15th. Thank you.
Hi folks, my name is Pete Fry. I'm running for City Council along with Adrian Carr and Cleta Brown and the Green Party. We're also running 2 for School Board, which includes Misha Oak, who's here, and Janet Fraser, and 2 for Park Board, Stuart McKinnon and Mike Wiebe. And we're hoping to form the balance of power on City Council, parks, and schools. So what we're asking is that you vote Green first, because without that kind of voice of power, any one party dominating any of those departments doesn't produce a full democratic result. So what we're seeing is we're not a developer-funded party, and what we've seen a lot of is that rampant development, particularly over the last 6 years of Vision Vancouver government, has led to a crisis in affordability. So we want to focus on things like affordable housing, affordable rental housing that's actually affordable, not the benchmark for affordability, which is $1,450 for a bachelor. We want to focus on transit for the entire city, not exclusively on the Broadway subway. So we ask that you vote Green first and make us the balance of power on government. So I'll take the rest of my time just to tell you a little bit about myself. I grew up in Vancouver. I'm a freelance graphic artist and web developer. I've been doing that since 1992. I was kind of the round peg, square hole kid, kind of a punky, artsy guy, and I got my start doing graphics, doing gig posters. I was a club kid and grew up in Vancouver, and back in those days, Yaletown, Gastown, they were vibrant artist communities. We used to party at the York Theatre when it was the New York Theatre, and I saw Black Flag play there, and DOA, and No Means No, and Skinny Puppy. Now it's been beautifully renovated thanks to a lot of the leadership from Heather, but that renovation did come at a cost. So the renovation of the York Theatre gave hundreds of thousands of density transfer space to the Wall Development Corporation, who are now in turn developing over here at 900 Hastings in Strathcona. That same kind of development exacerbates a crisis in affordable underground spaces because they're no longer available. They're now speculative properties. And we see that in Vancouver, that speculation has driven this crisis in affordability. What we see is, in fact, housing is now 9 times the median income in this city, which is entirely unsustainable. And in fact, if we want to nurture a vibrant and creative cultural scene that is a livable city where all of us can thrive, not just the extremely wealthy, we need to take another look and not be beholden to the developer interests and actually start working together with the people. And one of the big platforms and why I'm involved in the Green Party is because my background is that of a community activist. I live down the hill in Strathcona and I worked on the Downtown Eastside Local Area Plan, did a lot of advocacy for my neighborhood, and it's vital that we embrace communities and the people that make communities and make this city great. And we can all move forward together and make this the great city that it could be and nurture the creative culture and the greatness that we all have here. Thanks.
Wow, look at that. My name is Keith Higgins. I'm running for City Council with COPE, the Coalition of Progressive Electors. It's a party I'm really proud to be standing with. It has a long history of community activism going back to the 1960s in Vancouver. What we're about is taking decisive action to make Vancouver more affordable, including negotiating a universal transit pass so everybody can have $1 a day transit in Vancouver, every adult, basically the same way that a university or a big company negotiates it now. building more affordable housing, and as you'll see in a blog post I'll be releasing tomorrow, the clock is ticking. We're running out of time to actually build affordable public housing in Vancouver. And I'm really proud of our party's policies as far as art and culture goes. The big one is coming from a place where we have consciousness of what individual working artists and musicians really need, which is inexpensive, flexible space. And that's usually found in older industrial and commercial buildings, same ones that are under threat now by a rise in land prices, and then therefore a rise in leases and condo development. And when we lose these spaces, we try to replace them, but they get replaced with things that are much less flexible. You just can't have the same kind of scene. I know, I've been involved in artist-run culture for decades in this city. It can't be built from above. It comes from the community. I'll tell you a little bit about myself, too. I just did, of course, but going back to the very, very long time ago in the early 80s, I actually was on a bill once with the OA. Didn't just go see them. There are a couple of 7-inches out there that apparently are popular with European collectors that have me screeching and moaning on them. It was a great ride. It's something I think that everybody who wants to take an artistic risk should be able to do, but you need freedom. You actually need spaces where you're free to do things. And it's that kind of freedom and that kind of community-based art making that I really want to stand for. Thanks very much.
Good evening. Thank you. My name is Elizabeth Ball, and I'm delighted to be here. I'm one of your city councillors, and Heather Deal and I have worked for a number of years on culture at the city, trying to make culture an essential part of how the city works. I actually was raised as an actor. I started when I was 13 years old working in theater, and as the years went on, I was trained, went to school, started a theater company called Carousel Theater, which was on Granville Island and still is very successful. I also built the Waterfront Theater down there and established Performance Works, where many young people have actually trained on an outdoor stage down there. So I really know what it's like to start at the beginning, to struggle, to find your way, and to actually build buildings. So I was really excited to hear about Safe Amp, and whoever did your lovely website, I just want to tell you it's beautiful. It's simple, it's clean, it's clear, and it tells us what you need to do. So I am fascinated with you all tonight, and I'm looking forward to hearing what you're looking for in terms of building a creative building or a cultural building for young people. Having built a building for young people that was built especially for the needs of young people, I'm fascinated to see how things have changed and what people want today. The reason I work with the NPA is they have always been extraordinarily supportive to arts. And when I say supportive, I mean with money. Because money is what makes it possible for us to build buildings, to actually employ artists, to employ musicians. And I think it's wonderful when you have a government that will actually realize that artists are professionals, they need to be paid, and that money goes back into the community as a great investment. One of the things that is hardest is when you work with other politicians, none here at the table, that you always get the response where, oh, I love arts, but. And I love arts, but means you don't want to give them money because you don't understand how important we are in the community. Arts is the 11th largest industry in Canada. Creative industries is what they call us, but they do mean arts and culture. And we do change the world. We hold a mirror up to the world. We let people find out who they are through listening to our music or looking at our plays. And Vancouver has a very, very special place in the arts in Canada. We have more artists living here, professional artists living here, than anywhere in Canada. And we need to acknowledge that by making sure that artists are involved in every aspect of the community. When we do city plan, We need to look at what the arts, where the arts are and where they need to be. Thank you so much for having us all here today. We really look forward to hearing your questions. Thank you.
My name is Nicholas Chernin, and I'm running for City Council with the Cedar Party. And thanks very much for having us all here. My brother and I created the party 2 years ago because we saw a broken process at City Hall about community engagement, and that needed to change. And so we've been working very hard. We've been on the campaign trail for 2 years, actually, working to change things in City Hall. I am a dad of a 12 and 16-year-old boys. My background is in fashion and retail. Today we're going to talk a lot about the arts and what this group is looking for, which is fantastic. We're going to be talking about how to fund it, and Elizabeth is exactly right. If the money's not there, we can talk about it all we want, but if the funding is not there, none of this is going to happen. And I hope that we get to talk about some very specific aspects of where the funding hasn't been. It's also about zoning. The light and mid kind of industrial areas in Vancouver, those are the areas where these places can happen. Those areas are going away. It's because we're dedicated to development as opposed to community and projects such as this. Councillor Deal talked about they're building rental housing. Well, the rental housing that we're building, most of us in this room will not be able to afford it. They're talking about a transportation plan, focusing just on the Broadway subway. It's going to be a transportation plan that won't get most of us to facilities like this at 2 or 3 in the morning, or home at 4 in the morning, and that's a problem. The reason I'm here today is I'm here for two reasons, actually, and why I'm doing all of this. I'm here for my 12 and 16-year-old boys. My 16-year-old, as much as I want to control him, he's going to go out on a Friday and Saturday night. I want him to be able to go someplace safe, someplace that's accessible, someplace that welcomes him, and the kind of facility that you're talking about is going to create a place where, as a parent, I'm going to feel a little bit better about where he's going to be able to enjoy his time. So I want to be behind that. I am here for myself because, for my own sense of therapy, there are 2 things I do regularly, which is I sing karaoke in dive bars like Funky Winker Beans, and I dance. And I dance until 4 or 5 in the morning. I dance, not all the time, because I'm a parent. I used to dance at the Gates. Gates is gone. I still dance at the Red Gates sometimes. Dresso, not there anymore. Creating places like this and facilities like that, we need to get behind them. So I'm looking forward to the conversation and hearing what you all have to say. Thanks.